almost ready. There we go. There we go. Let's get this party situated here. And we'll just wait for everybody to show up. My usual 10 minutes as usual. Yep. Letting my beard get all scraggly in preparation for filming the Sarge footage for the Iron Meat review. It was a little bit too neat the last couple of weeks, so I've been letting it get bushy. Not as bushy as it was in the movie, but, you know, bushy nonetheless. So we will be starting here in about another 8 minutes or so. So come on in, everybody. Find your seats. Get comfortable. Hope you brought your questions with you. Iced tea is good for what ails you. Oh, man. It has been a week. It has been a week. Work has been hectic. Work has been busy. Lots of structural changes going on. Moving of things, which of course equates to changes in IT, which equates to more work for us. So it's been busy. Very busy, very tiring. Hi, Chan Man. I hate the dentist, 7th. You hate the dentist. Why is that? They pull some teeth, put him some crowns. Got a sore mouth. Charge you a lot of money for it. Yeah. That's what tends to happen. Got about 5 minutes to go, folks. 7th, have you heard that Concorde apparently cost $400 million? Biggest failure in gaming history, if that's true. My question is, how much of this was Jack Ryan convinced that it was going to be the next big thing, and how much of it was Herman Hulst thinking it was going to be the next big thing? Because if it was Ryan, I can understand that. But with Herman, that's not a good look, son. That's not a good look. I don't know, man. Chan Man, my grandmother passed away September 6th, buried last Saturday. I'm thinking of moving soon, but hesitant. Well, sometimes a move is good, but if it's just because you're feeling like you need a change of scenery after a life-changing event, I would pause on that and think about it long and hard before you decide to do so. Because you may just be reacting to the recent drama in your life, and you may end up regretting it down the road. So I put the brakes on a little bit and think about it first before you take that step. Four minutes before the show starts in proper. Yeah, hopefully it is a wake-up call for Sony. that they need to go back to what they're good at. Because it ain't multiplayer, and it certainly isn't live service. You know, if you want to have a live service game, how about you bring back, your MMO? You know, how about you bring that back? You know, bring back EverQuest. Give us a modern EverQuest. Why not? Why not? I would be willing to give that a go. How about it, Sony? Enough of this shooter crap. You know, competitive multiplayer has been going on for years and years now, ever since player versus player deathmatch with Doom in the least. It's played out, son. I don't care that a bunch of people are still playing it in Fortnite. You're not going to compete with Fortnite, and you're not going to pull people away from Fortnite to play Concord, especially not with characters as fugly as the ones that was in that game. It's just not going to happen. And you can pull it off market and retool it all you want, which probably means trying to make it free to play next year. You're just going to be wasting money. You're just going to be pissing it away. Yeah, they have SOCOM, they have Killzone, they have Resistance. They could bring, and I'm not saying that, Killzone or Resistance multiplayer stacked up at all to classic, say, for example, Halo multiplayer. But they were still good and relatively popular multiplayer when they were around. Yeah, I had several friends that were into it. I wasn't, but I had several friends that were. Same thing with The Last of Us multiplayer. I had several friends that were big into that. I can remember at least, trying it out for a couple hours, playing the Uncharted 3 multiplayer. It wasn't the greatest, but, it worked. Greetings. Haven't catched a live in ages. Watched the replays, though. Hi, Stevie boy. How's it going? How's it going? We'll be getting started here officially in about 2 minutes. I'm going to have to be more stingy with my tea tonight because we didn't have any cold bottles of water. So it's only going to be the tea. The tea's got to last me. Otherwise, I'm going to have to be pausing the show to get up and go pour another glass. And you guys know I don't like to do that. I don't like to have to get up and leave the show. Not if I can help it. Space Marine or Astro Bot? Well, to give you an idea, I earned the Platinum on Astro Bot earlier this week. I do not own Space Marine 2. Now, I would own it if anyone had it in stock, but Amazon is sold out until the 1st of October. So I have not been able to play Space Marine 2 because there are no physical copies, and I refuse to buy it digitally. Hi, Clean Frame. That being said, I do think that Astro Bot is a Game of the Year contender. It's one of the best platformers has been made in years. I do have some reservations about certain aspects of it. It has a momentum system that I'm not a fan of, but other than that, it's good stuff. Yeah, when you have a lot of people out there referring to it as Super Mario Galaxy 3, that's not very far off. Good evening, Biggin. How did you realize you could grow a full beard? Well, I mean, I knew that from the time I hit puberty, really, because I was having to shave my face every day. Anyway, it's Saturday, 6 o'clock, September 21st, 2024, and this is the 7thCast. Greetings and salutations. As always, I'm your venerable host, your friendly neighborhood 7th. 8th is upstairs with one of his friends playing Astro Bot right now in the game loft. He's been here all weekend, and we took his buddy out to see a movie earlier today. We went to see Transformers 1. Darkstar, early in with the donation, $5. Thank you, Darkstar. Appreciate you. Let's see what you said. Welcome back, Cotter. Have you tried out Space Marine 2? I don't have it. Remember, I told y'all last week, hey, if we end up getting $70 donated, I'll try to go out and find a copy somewhere. Well, that didn't happen. So I didn't go looking for it. All I can tell you is that it ain't on Amazon. Amazon don't have it. And I find it highly unlikely that I could drive over to the GameStop here in Temple and find a copy of Space Marines for PS5. I don't think that's going to happen. Maybe at Walmart. Maybe they'd have a copy at Walmart. But either way, we didn't hit that donation mark, so I didn't buy it. There you go. The only new thing that I've played this week was I played the Plucky whatever, the Plucky Squire. I finished that last night. I started it yesterday and I finished it late last night. What did I think of it? It was all right. It's a Zelda for beginners that's made to look like it's in and out of a kid's storybook. It's not bad. There's not a whole lot to the game's mechanics. It's really, really simple combat. You don't. There are power-ups to enhance your abilities. You don't really need them. You can beat the whole game with the stuff that you start out with for the most part. So, it was all right, but I don't see it as this mammoth game changer that some other folks have made it out to be. It's just, is what it is. Hi, Shadow Deist. I used to be just a kid watching 7th 12 to 13 years ago. Wow, thanks, Vincent. Now I'm feeding my daughter listening to the 7thCast. Yeah, well, you might be older, Vincent, but you're not as old as me, and thanks for reminding me. Hi, Bill Bones. Walmart's bound to have copies. Maybe, maybe not. Walmart hasn't been as big on stocking physical lately. Space Marine 2 isn't worth the full price by my estimation anyway. Okay. 8th is in the chat. Not sure you'd like Space Marines combat. Also, it's structured in a way where the campaign is around 8 hours and a lot of the content is in the online stuff. Ugh. Yeah, I don't know. No, Amazon hasn't restocked. They're saying they won't have any copies till October 2nd. Yeah, I guess Plucky Squire would be about a 7. About a 7. Although, you know what? No, I'm going to lower it to a 6 because I had a lot of bugs in my playthrough. The game crashed on me 4 times. Now, this was the PS5 version. Game crashed on me 4 times. I kept getting stuck in pieces of the environment. There were 2 different occasions where the character just stopped dead in his tracks and stopped responding to movement controller input, and I had to kill the game and load it back up. And in one instance, during the final boss fight, which is a 3D kind of shooting thing, almost like a 3D side-scrolling shoot-'em-up boss fight, like something out of Einhander or something. You're, tilting left and right, shooting at this thing, almost like a boss fight from Panzer Dragoon, right? And you're shooting at this big monster, and your little character is moving like this, and all of a sudden, my character just stopped responding to any of my inputs and drifted all the way over to the right side of the screen where I couldn't even see him because the enemy was shooting asteroids at me, and so I was completely hidden behind this wall of asteroids. And eventually, for no apparent reason, my character just kind of drifted back around to the front, and then I could control him again. And I don't think it's something that's meant to happen in the fight because I redid the fight later and it didn't happen. So there's some weird things going on, at least with the PS5 version, where I can't, now that I think about it, I can't give it a 7 out of 10. It would be a 6 out of 10, or by my scale, probably a 5 out of 7. Let's see here. Hi, Chris. How's it going? Yeah, I'm not even sure why 8th is using the chat. He's literally sitting up there right now with his buddy. He's like right up there, about 15 feet up there. Have platinum. Oh, okay. Did Astro Bot... Oh, you're talking to 8th. Yeah, now Astro Bot is a little bit on the shorter side compared to Super Mario Galaxy as far as content goes. But it's one of those games where when you do finish it, you're satisfied, but at the same time, you don't really want it to end. You want there to be like one more little hidden level that you find somewhere. It's I could see it having DLC missions, DLC levels down the line. We'll see. 7th, what is your favorite Moses story? I think the whole thing is like one long story, really. Probably my favorite interpretation of it has been the Prince of Egypt, if that tells you anything. 7th, what was the crappiest house you visited? I had a relative, not going to say whose wife refused to do any sort of house cleaning. And he worked 2 jobs to make ends meet. And so he was never really home to do any house cleaning. It was all up to her. And she wouldn't do any. And so the house eventually became infested with bugs and mice, and the carpet was all torn up and rotted, and their furniture had food and drink spilled on it so much that the upholstery on it was rotting, and there was mold on the walls, and et cetera, et cetera. And when he retired, he took a big chunk of his retirement money and paid to completely renovate that house and clean it up and make it nice again. And within like 2 years, it was right back to the way it was, because even after spending all that money, she wouldn't keep it up. And that was probably the nastiest house I've been in. What are you drinking, 7th? It looks like soda. It's tea. It's always tea. You guys ask me this every week. It's tea. I'm Southern. It's tea. Saw your tweet about looking forward to Season 3 of Heels. I stopped watching it because I read that it was canceled. Has that changed? Oh, well, I had no idea. I just knew that it had showed up on Netflix, and I started watching it. I have no... If it's been canceled, I didn't know. Thoughts on Kirby's Dream Land 3? Not sure that I've played that one. 7th, have you ever wanted to fly a plane or... No. I've never had any interest in my feet being that high off the ground. Could you regale us on the Mesopotamians? I'm not sure you got the right pronunciation or spelling on that, Bill Bones. Ever watched The Chosen? It's a good interpretation. Well, Chosen is a good interpretation of Jesus. It's not a good interpretation of Moses. Let's see here. Seventh, do you believe in haunted houses? Well, I've seen ghosts, but I've never been in what I would consider a haunted house. What state was this in? Tennessee. Do you believe in... Oh, I just said I believed in ghosts. Do I believe in Satan? Well, Satan believes in you, I'll tell you that much. It's tea. What is tea? Yes, iced tea. T-E-A. Tea. 7th, do you think it's sad that Astro Bot didn't sell well in Japan? Well, here's the thing. Japan isn't going to get a crap ton of copies of a game like that, because they've mostly embraced digital over there. The game that outsold it, the game that was number one that week, only sold 4,000 copies more, and it was also a new release. I'm just saying. Meanwhile, in Amazon sold out of it briefly at one point, got it back in stock, and it's been in their bestseller list since it came out. So something must be going right with it, especially since they're now talking about how important a release it is to them and all the plans they have for it next and whatnot. Clearly, it did fairly well compared to the budget they spent on it, that they're already talking about what else they're going to do with it. Seventh, have you ever seen the Ten Commandments 2006? No. Is it true that Sony shut down in Japan but stayed? No. I mean, it is true that most of the PlayStation decision making right now seems to be coming from their U.S. office more than Japan, which, kind of gives me Sega vibes. I don't really care for that, but since the U.S. makes a lot more money for them than the Japanese market does, it makes sense. Space Marines 2 is selling gangbusters, it appears. Well, there wasn't really a whole lot else out. This hasn't been a stellar year, not in my estimation anyway. But anyway, I forgot. We, like I said, three of us went to see a movie today. We went to see Transformers 1. Now, I didn't initially want to see it when I saw the trailer, because the trailer made it look like one of these made by Nickelodeon movies, like the crappy Nickelodeon Ninja Turtle stuff and that kind of thing. And so I wasn't. It looked like something for little kids. It looked terrible, and I didn't want to watch it. But Eighth and his buddy, they wanted to see it, so I decided to go see it with them, and I was quite surprised. I'm not saying that it's as good as Transformers the movie from 1986, and Eighth agreed with me on that, but it's probably the second best Transformers movie that's been made. They do mess around with the canon a little bit, at least as far as comparing it to the G1 canon, as far as Megatron and Optimus's origins. I mean, they get the names right, but it's a little bit different than how it plays out both in G1 and in the comics. But I know it's rated PG, but it's not a mild thing, and it's not as kiddie as the trailer made it out to be. You have Transformers being burned alive, being blown up, holes blown in them, ripped in half, sliced into pieces. I mean, it's pretty much on par with the '86 movie as far as violence goes. Even the Quintessons make a brief appearance. And that was one thing I didn't like, is that the design of the Quintessons doesn't match up very well, because one of the reasons they were called Quintessons is because they had the multiple faces. Quint 5 multiple. These Quintessons, they have the tentacles and everything, but they only have the one face. So I didn't like that, but otherwise, has a lot of action in it. It's got a decent amount of humor. As far as characterization goes, I think everyone did a great job. Although I think Keegan-Michael Key, who played Bumblebee, I think he overacted a little bit. He was trying too hard to be the wacky sidekick character, and so he was a little bit too hammy. But other than that, I was very satisfied. Now, of course, Chris Hemsworth will never be Peter Cullen. And at the end, when he transforms into Optimus, and I don't think that's, a spoiler alert, but when he transforms from Orion Pax into Optimus, Hemsworth does his best to emulate Cullen's interpretation of Prime. He doesn't really meet that mark, but he gave, it's an A for effort anyway. I was talking to Eighth and his friend on the way home, and I said if it was up to me, even though in general I'm not a fan of AI performances, I think they ought to just offer the same deal to Peter Cullen that they did to James Earl Jones, give him a crap ton of money for the rights to replicate his voice in AI for that character, so that we never have to hear anything but Peter Cullen as Optimus Prime. The same way that we'll never have to hear anyone except James Earl Jones for Darth Vader. That's my opinion. Let's see. I hope the gameplay loop of Space Marines 2 has enough fun factor to get you through the 10-hour campaign. It's cool. It has co-op and PvP too, and the PvP looks decent. Well, you know me. And, I would play the co-op, but I wouldn't care about the PvP. Transformers sounds like a worthwhile movie experience or summer blockbuster. It was a fun time. And it's, like I said, it has a lot of violence in it, but, it's robot violence, so it's safe for kids. And there were several kids in there. Well, there was like maybe 3 or 4 kids in there. And, they seemed perfectly happy with it. None of them complained of being bored by any means. There weren't that many people in there. I don't think this is going to be a massive blockbuster, even though there's not really anything else playing kids-wise for it to compete with. It's kind of out there on its own right now when it comes to kids' movies, but you would think that it would do better than it has, but it's my understanding that it did not have a tremendous opening weekend. I guess we'll find out come Monday. Eighth says the campaign to Space Marines 2 is fun. Haven't played much co-op or PvP, but the combat is similar to God of War 2016 mixed with Gears of War. I think he meant God of War 2018. Seventh, did you like the Cybertron games from 7th Gen, namely Fall of Cybertron? Yes, I did. I liked those. They were fun. They were well made. Seventh, I arrived to your stream late because I found a yard sale during my walk. Does anyone else put 7th on 2x speed? You sound like you'd do great commercials now that I hear you fast. I don't know why you would put me on 2x speed live. I could understand doing that on the replay. Seventh, I've heard a lot of good things about the first episode of the Penguin series on HBO. I don't have any interest in it. Zero interest. Seventh, do you like the film Way of the Dragon and I like Enter the Dragon. I didn't care too much for Way of the Dragon. Way of the Dragon, so-so. Enter the Dragon I really like. Yes, James Earl Jones was briefly in The Sandlot. And funny story about that. The one of the child actors was a huge fan of him. And the one day, they only had one day that they were filming where the kids were on the set the same day that James Earl Jones did. And so one of them finally built up the courage to go running up to him, and they said, "Sir, you're Mr. James Earl Jones, right? You were the voice of Darth Vader, is that right?" And he turns to this kid without a moment of hesitation, and he says, "No, I am your father," and freaked them all out. And they all started yelling and laughing and giggling. He made their day with that one little line, and it was just like that. Didn't even have to think about it. So that makes me think that for years and years, James Earl Jones had little kids coming up to him in public asking if he was Darth Vader, and he'd turn to him and do that. Anyway, there's your story for that. Seventh, thoughts on the Peacekeepers for Super Nintendo. I don't know that I've played that one. Hey, Seventh, you look blind with the glasses on. I've been wearing these for 15 years. I've been wearing these corrective lenses on this show for 15 years. And this is the observation you make 15 years later. Okay. Rest in peace to Darth Vader, arguably the greatest villain ever created. I don't know about that, but he's a great villain. Thoughts on Christopher Lee's performance as Count Dooku? I couldn't really take it seriously because of how stupid his name was. 7th, I know you're not into fighting games, but among your friends, did Killer Instinct on the SNES gain a lot of popularity? Not really. None of my friends talked about Killer Instinct at all. It was always Street Fighter 2 and Mortal Kombat. No one cared about Killer Instinct. Would you recommend Game of Thrones House of the Dragon? No. No, because like 3 episodes into season 2, I was like, I absolutely do not care about anything that's going on right now. I've lost track of who is who. And why I should care that this person doesn't like this person. I couldn't keep track of any of it anymore. I got extremely bored, and I just stopped watching it 3 episodes in. Yes, I watched the first 2 episodes of the Agatha thing, and it's bad. It's bad. I don't know what happened to that actress between WandaVision and now, but now she can't act her way out of a paper bag. It is so overacted and hammy. It's incredibly dumb. The only reason that I had any interest in it is because it's about the Darkhold. You know, the cursed book, the book of evil magic, that's strongly related in the comics to Ghost Rider and the Midnight Suns, and not to mention Mephisto. So I keep watching thinking, hey, are they going to pull in elements of Ghost Rider or the Midnight Suns or Mephisto or what was that? What were they called? The Night Watch or Night something? I don't remember. But, are they going to pull in elements of that? And so far, they haven't. And so I'm kind of, this isn't going to be, it's not going to have anything redeeming about it, is it? Oh, you know what? I forgot to give Darkstar a $1 bill for the $5. There you go, sir. $1 bill. Thank you for the $5. That puts us 45 away from extended by an hour tonight. 45. 7th, who do you think is the greatest villain of all time? And don't say Joker. Lucifer. 7th, thoughts on Nintendo's lawsuit against the Power World developers? I don't really care. There's not a game out there that doesn't rip off components of other games that have been made over the last 50 years. Every game borrows something from something else. It's just the way it is. 7th, wait a minute. Yay, and prequels sometimes aren't super interesting versus sequels. You're not wrong. 7th, are you interested in Dead Rising Remastered? No. I already rebought it on PS4 once. I'm not rebuying it again. Some prequels are entertaining to me, though, and don't roast me. Revenge of the Sith. I like Revenge of the Sith. That being said, it's the only one of the prequels I do like. I hate Attack of the Clones and I hate The Phantom Menace, but I like Revenge of the Sith. Spider-Man 2 is the greatest comic book film of all time. Not any Batman film, no X-Men, no Marvel Studios picture. Spider-Man 2 is the GOAT. I like Spider-Man 2. I think it's definitely the best of Raimi's trilogy. As far as feeling like a traditional comic book film, I could see it. But personally, I do not rewatch it near as much as I rewatch, say, for example, The Dark Knight. A 7th, Trigon versus Mephisto. I don't know, man. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't like the whole this person versus this person questions because I think they're kind of redundant, stupid. I just don't, that's like something a 12-year-old would ask you. So that kind of stuff doesn't interest me. No offense to you, that kind of stuff just doesn't interest me at all. Which movie had the best depiction of Lucifer? I'll throw you an oddball. I think one of my favorite interpretations of Lucifer is from the old Mickey Rourke movie. What was the name of that movie? And the devil was played by Robert De Niro. Angel Heart. Angel Heart. It's kind of a noir murder mystery type thing, and the devil is in it, and he's played by Robert De Niro, and I like that interpretation. I think it's an interesting interpretation of the character. What's worse, Fantastic Beast or The Hobbit? Fantastic Beast. The Hobbit is at least watchable. Nintendo are hypocrites after condemning Universal for trying to sue them for Donkey Kong. Well, the thing of it is, Nintendo's not actually suing for copyright. They're suing for patent infringement. A little bit different, but same end result. Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster is pretty darn good, although there are some questionable changes that were made. I never was a tremendous fan of the series anyway. Well, Spider-Man 3 was a disappointment to everybody, Nicholas. Seventh, is Lucifer the actual name of the devil in the Bible? Not to get... Elder Steel, let's not get into that stuff again. Because every time you bring up religion in here, it pulls me into some long-ass tangent that everyone else finds boring. If you want to ask religion questions, ask me in DMs. No offense, man, but it gets old. I'm not a frickin' pastor. I never have been. I never will be. I think Nintendo is just being insecure and trying too hard to gatekeep their IPs. Probably so. Seventh, what's the weirdest thing you've seen that makes you question if it was real or not? The spirits of dead mental patients and criminals walking around in an unmarked graveyard out in the middle of the woods. That one, I think I'd be hard pressed to think of a better example. Seventh, did you like the film Signs? I just watched it last night. It was okay. Better than most of his stuff. Regardless of what anyone feels of the prequels, I feel they deserve more respect because of the garbage sequel trilogy by Disney. Would you like to weigh in on the... You know what? To me, the prequel trilogy, people talking about, you know what? Now that I've seen the sequel trilogy, the prequel trilogy is pretty good. I think that's almost like women who will intentionally invite their ugliest friend to go out to the clubs with them because it thinks it makes them look more attractive to be standing next to an ugly woman. I'm just saying. And don't say they don't do that, because you know they do. Would you like to weigh in on the 1,000 bottles of baby oil situation happening with No, I don't care about what happens with him. You know, he's gonna wind up in prison. Either that, or he's going to be taken out in prison, and then everyone's going to be told that he self-deleted. Yes, I liked Pacific Rim. Pacific Rim 2, not so much. I've been in this chat. I've just not said anything. Okay. Favorite and least favorite fast food. Favorite would be Whataburger. Least favorite would be Arby's. What's your thoughts about the wild robot? I don't know what that is. Hey, Seventh, do you think some hospitals are haunted? Lots of people die there. I know there's a trope of a lot of people that feel that abandoned hospitals are haunted. I haven't ever been in one. I've been through an abandoned school before because we used it for paintball fights, but didn't see any ghosts in there. Lots of hobos. Saw lots of hobos in there, but no ghosts. Seventh, what's the worst Shyamalan movie to you? Well, I haven't really watched any since The Happening. That was the last time that I watched anything that he made. So I guess I would say The Happening. You know what? That's not true. I did watch uh, Glass. I watched the completion of the Unbreakable trilogy or whatever, which I didn't care for because, they spent all that time building up Bruce Willis, and then they just drowned him in a mud puddle. It was the stupidest ending of a character ever. Which I realize now that maybe they did that because he said, I don't want to have to come back and make any more of these because I have this condition and I'm not going to be able to say my lines much longer. Maybe that's what happened. I don't know. Five movies for $1? That ain't bad. 7th, do you think Kevin Hart was in? I have no idea. I'm not following that stuff. I'm not following it. It's a new Pixar movie. I don't know anything about it. Will you buy the rumored Days Gone remaster? No. It's already remastered on PS5. It had a generational update when the PS5 came out. It already runs at 4K 60. What more would you want from it? Plus, I already platted it. I don't have, I'm not going to spend $60, $70 for a game where I've already 100%ed. Do I still talk to Solid Rev? I talk to him on Twitter. 7th, did you like that movie Devil when they were stuck in the... No, it was very slow. How about that special PS5 Pro 30th anniversary with no disc drive? That'll cost $1,000 for all the stuff you see in the picture. I'd like to have one, but I know I won't be able to do it. I'd like to have it just to have it up on the shelf, not to actually use it. Any new movies? Oh, I just mentioned that, we went to see Transformers 1, and it was very good. Did you see Chappie? Chappie was okay. It was all right. Wasn't the greatest thing that I watched, It's... Oh, you were talking to 8th anyway. Have you seen iRobot with Will Smith? Yes, that's another one that's kind of Adam Sandler seen on the set of Happy Gilmore 2. Can't wait for it. Hope it's a good one. What you doing, girl? What you doing? Huh? Oh, okay. Okay. All right. You wanted to be up here and say hi to everybody? Huh? Is that what you want to do? You want to say hello? Yeah? Okay. Okay. Did you shoot the hobos with your paintball guns? No, we scared the crap out of them, though. They thought we were cops. 7, what's the worst game ever made? Worst game I've ever played was Irritating Stick. At least with E.T., I could actually understand how that game worked and beat that game. What you doing? What you doing? Are they not paying you enough attention up there? Because they're up there playing their video games instead of playing with you? Is that what the issue is? Huh? Huh? All right. You can sit up here with Grandpa for a while. You can sit up here with Grandpa since your dad's up there playing video games and not playing with you. 7th, did you ever see that Real Steel movie with Hugh Jackman? No offense, but the premise of that film seems a bit silly. I don't know if it's true, but I heard at one point that movie originally started out as a licensed movie for Rock'em Sock'em Robots. I don't know if it's true, but that's what I read somewhere. I mean, it's not the worst movie I've ever seen, but it's not exactly memorable. Do I think Sony is going too far with all the remasters, remakes? Well, yeah, because they don't have anything new or original. Aside from Astro Bot, apparently. JTech TV defending the PS5 Pro price. Well, I mean, if you sat down and tried to build, people say just get a PC. If you sit down and spec out a computer that has just the raw processing power that the PS5 Pro specs would have, you'd have about a $1,200 PC. So $800 is like $400 cheaper than what you're going to pay to get the equivalent PC gaming price. No matter what any of these idiots on YouTube tell you, that's the reality of it. So, it's not a bad price for the power that you're getting. The question is, how many actual games that come out for it are going to utilize that power? Because when it comes out, there's only going to be 50. And most of them are games you've already played, probably already beaten too. And that's where the value proposition comes into question for me. As far as, is it worth $800 to me when there's not going to be anything on there that I haven't already played that would take advantage of its power? Do you like the Final Destination films? Not really. Not really. I think the premise is kind of stupid. I mean, sure, the deaths are fun to watch, but there's not a whole lot of plot around it. Are you worried that AI will ruin society or worse? Yes. Did you watch Stand By Me? I've seen it multiple times. Do you like your shield being higher than your health, or no shield but with health tripled? I don't really pay much attention to shield in games where you have it, to be honest with you. Did you like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles? Yes, but not as much as other films from that general era. Like, it's not even my favorite Thanksgiving film. My favorite Thanksgiving film is Dutch, with Ed O'Neill, the guy that played Al Bundy. That's my favorite Thanksgiving movie. I like it way better than Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Does Eighth rage at video games? Not like I do. I will lose my temper on video games. Yell at them, curse them. I've been known to break controllers, break games. The most I've ever heard out of Eighth is every now and again I might hear him go, "Why?" And that's it. That's the extent of it. And even so, not in a long time. Do you think Astro Bot could win Game of the Year? So far, compared to the other stuff that's come out? Yes. Are you looking forward to Terrifier 3? I am. 8th isn't. 8 thinks they're too long. He thinks they're too long for a horror film. So he's kind of like drained by the time it's over. Alex! You stop that. She's licking my pillow. Stop licking my pillow. I can see what you're doing in the camera, dog. Don't be acting shocked that I can see what you're doing. Seventh, remember when you spoiled The Sixth Sense? Yeah, I talked about that just a week ago, Shadow Diaz. You're off your game today. Seventh, what's your top 3 favorite Stephen King movies? The Shining, Christine, definitely Christine, and let's see. I'm going to say Silver Bullet. Seventh, would you ever own a robotic dog? I don't think so, no. Thoughts on Detroit Become Human? Didn't play it. I spoiled Avengers Endgame. I still regret spoiling it for a few dudes. They were so sad. Seventh, did you like both of the Tron films? Yes. I liked both very much. I mean, there was a lot of differences there, That being said, I'm not really excited about this third one because the majority of it is going to take place in the real world instead of on the grid. And you know, and I don't care too much for its star either. Jared Leto, I don't care for him much at all. So. Star Child in a bubble. I think people are cautious about the Pro because on top of the price tag, it will not deliver what it's promising for every game. It was the same thing with the PS4 Pro. I went out and bought the PS4 Pro. Most of the games I played on it didn't take advantage of the power boost because they were never patched. Seventh is Sony going back to how they were doing the PS3 generation. No, because if they were redoing the PS3 generation, they would have already learned their lesson by now. 7th, do you stream on Twitch? No. I eventually intend to start streaming gaming on here. Eventually. I noticed you have a Crow t-shirt on. Did you like the remake of The Crow? I have not watched it. We didn't go see it at the theater, and I'm not paying $25 to watch it on streaming. When it shows up free on something like Netflix or HBO or Amazon Prime, then I'll watch it. What are your other contenders for Game of the Year this year? I don't really have any others aside from Astro's Playroom or Astro Bot. There just hasn't really been that much that's reached out and grabbed me like it did. You know, I mean the only other game that I can think of that I put a significant amount of time into was Visions of Mana, and it's as good as it is. It's just another Mana game. Now, some people are saying that the new Dragon Age game will be Game of the Year contender. I don't know, but I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt and try it at least. Favorite John Candy film? I forget how he died. Died of a heart attack. Uncle Buck. Who are the best horror movie characters in your opinion? The ones that you don't expect them to be the horror character. You go into a Nightmare on Elm Street film knowing it's about Freddy. You know, I like the movies where you don't really know who or what it is, and you have to figure it out. I like that kind of stuff. And not just mean that I don't like slasher films. I grew up on them. But you know what I mean? As long as your dog doesn't on your pillow. Well, you know, my dog JD used to do that out of revenge. I think I've mentioned that a couple of times on here. She don't do that, though. She don't do that. 7th, which do you like better? Superman 78 or Spider-Man 2? Spider-Man 2 because it has a better villain. Not to disparage Gene Hackman, but he's the weakest part of that movie. Because he turns Lex Luthor into just a joke. Are you and 8th ready for Hallow Thanksmas? I will be having time off for all of those. I won't be off Halloween night, but I'll have like the next Friday after it off. Then I'll have 7 days off for Thanksgiving, and I'll have 2 weeks off in December. Now, for close to Halloween, because I was originally intending on going to Retropalooza up in Fort Worth, I have that weekend off. I have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday off, and then I have the following Friday, the first Friday of November off. So, I get 20 paid days off vacation time a year, or 4 weeks. And then I get, on top of that, government holidays and a floating personal day that I can use anytime that I want. The holiday, the paid time off, my 20 vacation days, I schedule those in advance because you're supposed to give them at least a month notice. So I do all of mine in the first of the year. I'm hoping to start going back to Retropalooza, at least the one up north. Probably not going to be going back to the one in Houston, but at least the one up north I'd like to go back to. But not this year. Money's just too tight. Can't do it. Not after buying this house. Speaking of which, we've had $5 in donations so far tonight. $5. $45 short of an extension. Somehow I've gotten behind. Hold on a minute. What's your go-to platformer? Well, right now it'd be Astro Bot, even though I've platted it. One that I really like that hardly anyone talks about is one that came out a couple of years ago. I actually streamed a few hours of it, called Pumpkin Jack. Pumpkin Jack is excellent. In fact, I think it's better than the remaster they made of Medieval. Because it's kind of comparable to Medieval, only there's more of a platforming element to it than what Medieval has. Medieval. And so if you've never played Pumpkin Jack, I highly recommend it. There is not a physical, unfortunately, but it is available on the PlayStation Store, and it regularly goes on sale. So pick it up. There's another really good one, or at least I thought it was really good. Its sense of humor is kind of out there. It's called Hell Pie. You might want to check that one out too. Seventh, what's your favorite Genesis shooting game? Thunder Force 3. Seventh, in your opinion, what is the most underrated Super Nintendo game? Soul Blazer. That one doesn't get as much love compared to the other, Square and Enix games that came out for the Super Nintendo. So I would go with Soul Blazer. I really liked it as far as Zelda clones go. Thoughts on the movie Scarface? Don't like it. I don't like it because I think Al Pacino's Cuban accent is god awful and incredibly over exaggerated to the point of being a racial stereotype. And he does the same thing again in Carlito's Way. His Cuban accent is just, it's like a Cuban accent you'd hear on Saturday Night Live, and it takes me out of it. I can't take him seriously in either film. Seventh, just curious, do you watch MST3K? Yes. Not the new stuff on Netflix, but I watch the old show. Seventh, have you ever played the Getaway games? No, I didn't care for Getaway. I played like the first one, the original one. I didn't like it. I'm not big on the whole Grand Theft Auto heist games. I didn't play Driver either. I didn't like Driver. Seventh, do you have an original NES? Yes, it's sitting on that shelf back in the corner back there. Mine's painted black, though. I have a custom one that's black and red with my logo carved in the top of it. I do not have Rob. Rob's kind of expensive and hard to find these days. I'm not sure I really care for the art style of the Dragon Age game either. It almost looks Pixar-ish. It's more cartoony than the previous game. So, but again, I liked Inquisition all right, so we'll see. Have you seen Fantastic Planet? How does it rank among the best of sci-fi movies? Fantastic Planet is okay. I don't think it's aged terribly well, but for the era that it came out in, it was well done. Seventh, which of the Texas Chainsaw movies do you recommend? I like the first and only saw it in the second. I only like the first one and the second one. The rest of them I don't fool with. My favorite is the second one, because it's hilarious, and I really liked Carolyn Williams as Stretch. In fact, sitting under my TV is an autographed photo of Carolyn Williams from playing Stretch, and the caption says, "Seventh, you naughty boy." They beautified the Quinaris because apparently the original design wasn't sexy enough for them. Yeah, they looked like demons in the original games, and now they look like handsome Squidward with horns. What's that all about? I saw that, and a little bit of my dinner came back up in my throat. I definitely am not a fan of that design. No. Did you like the 2003 Texas? No, I did not. Seventh, which do you think was better, Superman 2 or the first one? I like the Donner cut of Superman 2. I liked the original cut when I was a kid, but now that I go back and watch it again, the director that replaced Donner on that film, Richard Lester, David Lester, I can't remember. His last name is Lester. Terrible. Terrible. Absolutely terrible. Did you typically travel for vacation pre-COVID? Pre-COVID, I hadn't had a vacation since 2015. Not a real one. From 2015 to when COVID hit, the only trips that I made was to Retropalooza. I didn't take big vacations. I spread my stuff out throughout the year, and then I take 2 weeks at the end of the year for the holidays just so I can sit and listen to Christmas records and drink hot cocoa and watch Christmas specials and stuff without anybody bothering me. It's my little 2 weeks of nostalgia before having to start a whole other year of this crap. If it was up to me, I'd retire, but I can't afford to retire. I don't have enough in savings to retire. So I got to work. I'll probably never be able to retire, but if I could afford it, screw work, I'd be retired right now. But I can't afford it. I probably never will afford it. I'll probably still be working some kind of a job in one form or another when I die. It's a sad thing, but that's my reality. What rating would you give Phil Spencer since being the head of Xbox? Well, I wouldn't give him a pass. Right now, I question whether he could manage a Starbucks, much less, a gaming company. Would you like the PS5 to have more platformers? I would like PS5 to start reinvesting in all of the original IP that they apparently now think they don't own. Do you think Astro Bot is similar to Little Big Planet? No, not at all, because it doesn't have a creation mechanic. It doesn't have floaty platforming mechanics, and it's in 3D instead of 2.5D. Percolated coffee is so much better than regular drip. I wouldn't know. I don't drink coffee. What do you miss from the 80s and 90s the most? I think people were nicer and no social media made things more pure. I miss hangouts, I was not as much of a homebody in the 90s as I am now. I was always out either practicing or performing with my band, or I was out with my girlfriend doing something, or I was over at my cousin's playing Magic the Gathering or Castle Risk all night. I was always off doing something. It was very rare for me to just spend a whole weekend at home back then. And now I barely ever leave my house unless it's to go see a movie with 8. And part of that is social media. Part of that is social media, the influence and the effect of it, because malls are mostly dead. It's not really fun to go to a mall anymore because most of your favorite shops aren't there anymore. And now there are a few malls that are exception. The mall down in Cedar Park, it's still popular. There's still a lot of people that shop there. But this mall here in Temple, it's dead. It's deader than Elvis. It has one retro gaming store in it that's worth going to, and the rest of it's just, why even bother? They've got a fully set up movie theater in there. They're not even using it. It's closed. And it was set up for IMAX. They just closed it. They're not even trying to draw traffic into that place anymore. I don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, sure, a lot of people do shopping online, but if they put enough things in there that the teens to early 20s crowd would be interested in, people would still show up. It needs some landscaping. It needs to have its architecture modernized. It doesn't look like it's been refabbed since maybe 1998, but it could be a popular hangout spot for people around here, in the least. The only reason I have to go in it is the retro game store that's there, and they're overpriced and didn't really have a whole lot that I was interested in when I went in there. So kind of a crapshoot going to places like that. At this point, it's almost to the point where I'm better off just buying games off of eBay and trying to just get scalp some good deals on eBay than try doing yard sales and garage sales and stuff like that here, because I found out pretty quickly there's like 2 big resellers here in this town, and they snipe every yard sale, every garage sale, every new game that comes into the flea market, because there is a flea market here, to turn around and flip them. And so it's very hard to indulge in this hobby the way we've historically done it here. So I'm to the point pretty much where I'm just going to be like doing Whatnot and eBay from now on, and then occasionally, saving up to go up to Retropalooza and wheeling and dealing with my friends that run booths there. Let's see here. Where does Grandma's Boy rank in the grand scheme of video game movies? Grandma's Boy is probably one of my top 3 favorite video game movies. I know it's produced by Sandler and whatnot, his Happy Madison company, and he's not even in it. But I love Grandma's Boy. I legit love that movie. It's one of my go-tos. When I can't think of anything else I want to watch, I'll put it on to play in the background while I'm doing other stuff. 7th, I rewatched Pirates of the Caribbean last night. First 3 films aged well. The other 2 are meh. Yeah, the other 2 aren't even worth watching, I don't think. Although I did like Javier Bardem, the villain that he played. I can't even remember the character's name now. But I thought he was properly creepy. Wait a minute. Oh, magic powers. All right, let's see here. If you made a game based on your life, what kind of game would it be? It'd be a side-scrolling platformer, of course. Who or what would be the final boss? Whatever's keeping me from retirement. Did you see Inside Out 2? No. It was very successful at the box office. I know. I did not go see it. I did not like the first one. 7th, will Nintendo ever be competition again to PlayStation? Well, they already are, but just in a different market. They're in the handheld market. They've just convinced everybody they're in the console market. Is Watership Down as good as Lord of the Rings, but with bunnies? I didn't like Watership Down. It was depressing. Lord of the Rings is not depressing. 7th, I hope PlayStation gets competition. They need it so they don't get lazy. You're not wrong. That Christopher Reeve documentary looks interesting. I agree. Are you scared of the MPOXXX? I don't know what that is. Thoughts on the John Wick movies? I liked the first 2, and then it started to get dumb. And I really didn't like the 4th one. 7th, have you tried the Taco Bell Big Cheez-It Crunch Wrap Supreme? I've had the regular Crunch Wrap Supreme. I don't know that I've had a quote unquote Big Cheez-It Crunch Wrap Supreme. 8th, have you had the Big Cheez-It Crunch Wrap Supreme?
No.
No? Okay. None of us have had it. I wonder if Sony will announce that state of play or whatever. It's such a nothing burger to I don't know. I don't know what's going to be at that state of play. I never trust what the insiders say that gets leaked out all over YouTube, because 9 times out of 10 they'll get like 1 or 2 things right and then everything else is wrong. No, I didn't like the Rush Hour films. I found Chris Tucker annoying. I can only take him in small bursts. You know, he was fine in The Fifth Element where he was on screen for 10 minutes, but a whole movie of him. I mean, I guess I liked him all right in Friday, but then again, he was only in the first one, so. Could I ever shoot a GoPro video of going to the mall retro store before it closes? I don't know. Could you? Oh, you could. Could you? I don't have a GoPro. 80s and 90s were better time. It was fine to... And you know, I imagine that the owners of that store wouldn't mind me filming it and giving them free advertising so long as I, you know, didn't put their faces on camera. I'm sure they'd be fine with it. 80s and 90s were a better time. It was fine to disagree. And exactly. You know, everybody wasn't going for each other's throats and trying to get them fired from their jobs and stuff back then. 7th, do you think Patrick Swayze would have made a good Superman? No. People can just get free shipping and shop from home, which really overshadows the mall. Well, I don't think it overshadows the mall experience, because there was something more exciting about going to the mall, because there are so many different things to do. You could go see a movie. You could go to the arcade. You could go to all these different stores. You never knew for sure what you were going to find, who you were going to run into. Maybe you have a new dining experience while you're there and you get to eat something you've never ate before. You can't get any of that on Amazon. All Amazon is convenience. And even then, you know, you're not getting it same day. You're at least having to wait 1 day, you know. Whereas you go to the mall, you walk out with it in your hands. Hi, Blastoise91, or however that's pronounced. Uh-oh. Two hours remaining. We have had $5 in donations. We are 45 away from extending the show. And we are 65 away from me being able to afford Space Marines 2. Alright. I didn't delete anybody's comment, Stevie boy. I have no idea what you're talking about. If I was going to delete one of your comments, I would mock you incessantly first before I did it. I haven't even mentioned you other than to say hello. I didn't delete crap. So I don't know what you're talking about. If a comment had been deleted, I could scroll up and it would tell me, you know, this comment was deleted by so-and-so. There's no comments from you in here other than when you introduced yourself. Nothing has been deleted. Seventh, who do you think is the worst human being that has ever existed on this planet? I don't know. There have been a lot of awful people. Not really my place to say, don't you think? Sir, did you play Stellar Blade? No. Or Black Myth Wukong? No. We own Stellar Blade. We don't have Black Myth. Magic powers. 7th, have you ever wanted to be the Pope? That'd be kind of hard since I'm not Catholic. 7th, did you see Jane's Addiction may have broken? Oh, they broke up. Rush Hour was a Chris Tucker movie, not a Jackie Chan movie. You're not wrong. Did you ever see any episodes of Hey Ash, What You Playing? No. What's the best thing you've eaten at a mall? New York style pizza. Ever had deer or any game meat? Yes, I don't care for it. My dad used to make a barbecue out of deer meat when he'd go hunting in the winter. Well, that all, Bill, whether or not driving to a mall is a disadvantage, all depends on how far you live from one. When I lived in Jacksonville, Florida, I was at the mall all the time because my apartment complex was literally just a couple of blocks from the Avenues Mall, which was the nicest mall in Jacksonville at that time. I don't know if it still is, but at the time, that was the nicest mall in Jacksonville, was the Avenues. The Avenues is the electronics boutique where I pre-ordered my Dreamcast and showed up there that morning of September 9th, 1999 to pick up my new Dreamcast and a couple of games for it. And somebody accused me of looking like Silent Bob because I was wearing blue jean shorts and a trench coat. And still had my long hair. I hadn't shaved it off yet. Thoughts on the film Kangaroo Jack? It's not very good, and they marketed it as a kids movie when the kangaroo is only there in like an hallucination sequence. So the whole film was a lie. 7th, would you consider Pumpkin Jack to be the most Halloween-like video game out there? It's one of them. I think a good one for Halloween is our Costume Quest 1 and 2. Very Halloween inspired. Thoughts on Cloverfield? I like the first one. Don't care for any of the other ones because they're not really Cloverfield movies. They're just other movies that they made a few changes to and slapped the Cloverfield name on them to try to sell them. Did you ever watch Beast Wars? No, I never liked Beast Wars because I thought the animation looked like crap. 7th, how close are we to another 80s style gaming crash? Closer than anybody would care to admit. Passion of the Christ is filming. I hope it's good. We'll see. We'll see. Christ of Nazareth is back, and this time it's personal. September 9th, 1999. One of the best days ever. Yes, it was. Got my Dreamcast from Toys R Us and took the whole summer to save up. Yeah, I had scheduled to have the day off at work. I went to pick it up, and I spent that whole day playing. But then it's like the same week that I bought it, a hurricane grazed Jacksonville, and it knocked the power out. And so here I was sitting in my apartment with this new console, and I had like 2 or 3 new games for it. I had NFL 2K and Sonic Adventure and something else. I think it was Blue Stinger, and I couldn't play any of it. Oh, wow, you had a sweet setup in Jacksonville. Yeah, I had a very sweet setup. The nicest, at that time, the best Chinese place in town was right up the street from my apartment complex. Magic powers. I was closest. I was like just a couple of miles drive from the nicest movie theaters in town, the nicest mall in town. I was like 10, 15 minutes away from the beach and all the clubs, all the nightclubs on the beach. I had a sweet setup, man. I come out my apartment door, go down steps, and there was the laundry building, really convenient. There was a swimming pool right there, very convenient. Everything was clean there. The cops never got called out there. It was very quiet. I hear nowadays it's a ghetto, but It wasn't when I lived there. And it wasn't like the greatest thing. It was like a 700 square foot apartment. It was one bedroom, but I was very happy there. I loved it. I loved that apartment. I loved living in Florida. It was a dream of mine from when I was a kid. I loved being able to hop in my car, my Camaro, take the T-tops off, and just drive 90 minutes down 95 and hit 192, take it straight to Disney, and spend the day at Disney with my Florida resident pass, spend the night at one of the value resorts, spend a few hours at downtown Disney, and then drive back home. And that was my weekend, man. I loved it. I loved it. I loved going to the music clubs in Jacksonville. Like I'd been to the Milk Bar. I used to go to the Milk Bar where they discovered Limp Bizkit. But by the time I started going there, it wasn't called the Milk Bar anymore. It was called Club 88 or something like that. It was on 88th Street. And so they'd been changed to Club 80, something 88. I can't remember now, but that was where I saw Punkorama 2000, where it was All, who are the Descendants with a different lead singer, Straight Faced, the Voodoo Glow Skulls, and somebody else. There was 4 bands. I can't remember who the other band was. Now I'm curious. Now I have to know. Hold on a second. Can't believe I can't remember. It varied depending on what town you were seeing it at, but it was Straight Faced, Voodoo Glow Skulls, All, I can't remember the other band to save my life. Agnostic Front. It was Agnostic Front. That's who it was. So Straight Faced, Agnostic Front, the Voodoo Glow Skulls, and All. I was only there to see All. I didn't care about seeing the other bands. So went there with a date. Not really a date. She was a coworker that I invited just so I wouldn't be going by myself. And she ended up getting blasted because she got invited up to the VIP booth, and I was down in the pit, and she ended up getting blasted and drunk out of her mind, and I ended up having to carry her out of there. But yeah, but I went to see All, and then when All finished their set, I flashed my Descendants tattoo at their guitarist, Stephen Egerton, and he acknowledged it. So when he came off the stage, he came and got me, and I ended up hanging out with the band out in the parking lot for the rest of the night. So I was listening to the other bands in the background from the outside, but I was having too much fun hanging out, with my favorite band of all time. How could I pass that up? I still have pictures of that. I have pictures of that on my phone. Let's see here. Why are they making Passion of the Christ 2? Well, because his resurrection isn't the end of the story. The story of Christ goes on for another 40 days after that. Costume Quest, never heard of it. It's a downloadable game. Would you consider Ghouls and Ghosts to be Halloweenish? Sure. I mean, I used to do 7th Halloween with, horror Halloween themed games, but none of y'all would watch it. That's why you're not getting it this year either. Silent Bob reference goes hard. Thanks for the sharing and the visual. Well, yeah, I mean, I wasn't as back then. I wasn't fat like I am now, uh, so I didn't have the pudgy Kevin Smith look. But I had a goatee and I had long hair, and I was wearing a baseball cap backwards, and I was wearing a T-shirt with blue jean shorts and a leather trench coat, and the reason being with Airwalk sneakers with no socks, and the reason being was that it is very hot in Florida, but when you live on the coast, like Jacksonville's on the Atlantic coast. It's not on the Gulf of Mexico coast where you have a warm Gulf breeze coming in. Instead, you get this cool Atlantic breeze. And so in the early mornings, it can be very chilly, even in the summertime. And so I was there at the butt crack of dawn, standing in line to get in to get my Dreamcast. And I started to get a little cold standing because we were having to wait in line outside the mall. And so I had somebody hold my place, and I went running back to the car, and I had my leather trench coat in the back of my car. And so I threw it on, went running back up there, didn't care how I looked. I was there to get my Dreamcast. And so I went walking in there, paid for my Dreamcast, but I thought, you know what, I've got enough left over. I think I'm going to buy another game so I can have 3. And so I was standing there looking, and somebody referenced to me and said, look, it's Silent Bob. So that's the whole story. Let's see. 7th, did you ever visit SeaWorld? Many times when I was a little boy. Thoughts on the Monday Night Wars between WWF and WCW? In my opinion, those were the glory days of wrestling. Yes, and they'll never be repeated. That was peak. That was peak. I mean, I was a WCW guy, so I would watch WCW and TiVo WWF. So that when I was done watching WCW, I'd switch over and... well, not TiVo, because TiVo didn't exist yet. I had my VCR programmed to record it. So I would watch WCW live, and then I'd rewind the tape and watch WWF. TiVo didn't come out until I think, 2000, 2001? Something like that. I liked SeaWorld. I mean, I think differently about it now. But when you're a kid, you don't think of, what those animals go through. You just see this giant, majestic thing leaping into the air and splashing your old man soaking wet and watching him go, oh, son of a bitch, damn fish. It was going to SeaWorld with my dad was literally like the skit that Saturday Night Live did with Chris Farley. Because my dad would be very strategic. He wanted to be able to see what was going on, but he didn't want to be in the splash zone. So he would intentionally ask people, how close can I get without being in the splash zone? And the attendants would point to the safe areas. And so he'd go and pick a spot there, and every time he'd get blasted with a wave from the whale coming up and splashing right on the edge of the tank, and just this big wash would come right over the tank wall and land right on my dad and soak him from head to toe every time. And he'd be like, the damn fish remembers me. It was funny. It was funny. He remembers me from last year. 7th, thoughts on Monday Night Wars. I already answered that. What did you eat today to have so much magic power? I had a homemade taco salad. Eighth month has deleted a comment. Don't use that word, Smithy. YouTube don't like it. He must have deleted a comment. Maybe he deleted the other guy's comment who said he had his comment deleted. I don't know. Favorite brand of hot dogs? I used to like Ballpark. I don't know if nowadays I tend to just get Walmart brand because I'm a cheap bastard. But let's see here. Hi, video game lover. Do you like spicy chicken sandwiches? No, I do not, because with my stomach problems, I can't handle them. Seventh, how long till Diddy self-deletes? I would imagine it's coming. I would imagine it's coming. Thoughts on the TV show The Parenthood? I don't remember a TV show. I remember there was a really awful Patrick Swayze comedy that was called The Parenthood, but I don't remember a TV show of it. Did you ever watch the German found footage movie? It wasn't German, it was Spanish. The movie was made in Spain. Maybe Germany made their own version of it, but the original wreck was made in Spain. I'm going to reminisce with some 7th Halloween this weekend. Okay. Hot or cold? I like warm weather. I'm not a big fan of cold weather. 7th, has gaming been much funner with 8th around? I always like playing video games with some. Well, we don't really do that much nowadays. When he was a kid, we had a lot of co-op games to play. You know, we'd play the Lego games together, games like Mega Mind and stuff like that, stuff that had two-player co-op. We don't do that as much these days. He mostly just does his own thing. You know, I have my gaming room down here. He has his own gaming room that he's sitting up there in right now, in addition to his own computer room where he does most of his gaming, because he does more gaming on PC these days now than he does on console. Did you stop watching wrestling when WCW closed its doors in 2001? No, I held on to WWE for a little bit longer after that, but it wasn't that long after that I just lost interest and stopped watching. I'll watch Eighth play Ultra Steel. I'll watch Eighth play if he comes down here and wants to show me something. You know, every now and again, Dad, you got to see this, and he'll pop a disc in and install the game, and he'll show me something. And there have been instances where I have bought him a game, and he has come downstairs and played it while I was still working, and so I was multitasking, watching him play his new game while I'm doing my job. But it's not like an all the time thing. I mean, the whole point of him having his own setup is because so he can just do his own thing and he doesn't have to, you know, rely on my stuff and what have you, like it used to be. Because used to, he, you know, when he was a kid, he didn't have his own PS3 or anything. If he wanted to play PS3, he'd come downstairs and play. And then finally, that one Christmas, I won him a PS3 from a YouTuber named TruthNow37, and that was his first PS3. Was one that I won for him on YouTube. Seventh, what horror movie legitimately scared you? The first time I was ever scared by a horror movie, I was about 3 or 4 years old, and it was the made-for-TV miniseries of Salem's Lot. My aunt was watching it in her living room, and we were over there visiting, and I just happened to turn around right when the kid opens his eyes and raises up out of the coffin. Scared the ever-loving crap out of me, and that's really what began my fascination with horror movies as a kid. Is the spaghetti western genre as good as the classic western genre? I think the Clint Eastwood ones are. I wouldn't say so with any of the others. I don't even like Once Upon a Time in the West. I don't like that movie. Are you going to go see the new Christopher Reeve document? No, I'll wait for it to hit streaming. I'm not going to go see it in theater. Why didn't you like ECW? Well, for one thing, you couldn't find ECW. When I was living in Jacksonville, Florida, and I didn't have a channel that carried it. Yeah, I just didn't. I didn't have any channel that even carried it where I lived. So, you know, the only way I could watch ECW was grainy, early internet video clips of it. And I could read about it on all of the wrestling forums that I frequented back then. The way gaming is headed, I'm going to make my game 80s and 90s themed Super Nintendo, OG PlayStation, Dreamcast, and a Pac-Man arcade. I'm going to hold off on buying my replacement multicade for a while because I want to see how the economy's doing. The economy's acting really weird, and I don't want to be spending a whole bunch of money. Then, sometime next year, find out that they're like, getting rid of all their IT and outsourcing it to India or some crap, and end up wishing that I had saved up a bunch of money while I searched for another job, which, I know I've been here 12 years and it's highly unlikely, but, I'm a guy that likes to always be mindful of the worst potential scenario. So I may not rush out to buy a replacement multicade when I get my bonus next year. I may just hold on to it for a few months and watch to see how the economy reacts. We will see. 7th, when I was a kid, I used to see my older sister play old games. I don't know why, but it's nice to see people play a game. That's why I enjoy Let's Plays. If people can watch sports, people can watch games. Well, not everybody likes games. People don't... It's very unlikely that you're going to see people get as... And I know there's such a thing as esports, but, I don't see people getting as emotionally invested in like their favorite esports team as I do their favorite football or baseball team, for example. I know there are fandoms like that, but they're extremely small compared to professional sports. Been playing Borderlands 2, having a blast completing all the DLC. Do you remember your main between the Commando, Assassin, Siren, and Gunzerker? I used Gunzerker a lot. In fact, I think that's the only one that I mained was Gunzerker. Do you think Sting made the right decision having no desire to work for Vince McMahon before he left TNA and went to... No, I don't. I think he should have just bit the bullet because we would have had a lot more, fantastic Sting matches. Because let's be honest, he didn't exactly set the world on fire in TNA. I mean, yeah, Joker Sting was kind of funny, but at the same time, it was really cringe. So, Seventh, what's your favorite gun? 45 semi-automatic. I don't currently own one. I currently only own a 9mm. But that's because I didn't really want to spend the money on the 45 at the time. And I'll eventually get me a 45. I'll get to go along with it. I also would like to have a 12 gauge. I don't care anything about having an AR or anything like that. I'd be happy with a 12 gauge, something with a decent spread. I know Sting came to WWF briefly, but not when he should have. 10 years after he should have. Did you like Ultimate Warrior? I did when I was a little kid, but once I got old enough to realize he had no talent, I lost interest in him. What was the worst wrestling match you've ever seen and why? Some of them probably involve the Ultimate Warrior. But probably the worst one that I can think of is that steel cage match with Big Boss Man where he had the dogs around the ring, and one of the dogs took a crap on the mat while the match was going on. That's probably one of the worst matches I've ever seen. Buff Bagwell's mom on a forklift. That was with the Viagra on a pole match. That one was pretty bad too. No, I do not like cats. Thoughts on Dusty Rhodes? Excellent on the mic, charismatic, a natural at crowd psychology. Not the most technical wrestler, certainly not the most fit, but for who and what he was, he never needed to be. Undertaker was one of the last ones that were good. I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. I think AJ Styles was good. And there's been others that have come along after Undertaker that I thought were good. I mean, Steve Austin came after Undertaker. The Rock came after Undertaker. You know, you have to remember, Undertaker's been around a long time. He debuted in what, 88, 89, something like that? Thoughts on the show One on One? I don't know that show. Do not know what that show is. Nope. Not familiar with that one. Do you remember that WWE game on the N64? Well, there was more than one on the N64. Excuse me, we would bust our butts laughing and taunting wrestlers getting knocked in. Yeah, there was more. There was several WWE games on N64. Not all of them were good. I think my favorite N64 wrestling game was WCW NWO Revenge, I think was the name of it. No, I don't like John Cena. I think he's been pretty funny in some of the movies he's been in, and I love him as Peacemaker, but I've never been a fan of him as a wrestler. 8th used to love John Cena. Eighth used to love him. At one point, you know, they had these little mini wrestlers, and you could buy a little ring for them. They were about this big, and his favorite one was John Cena. He'd carry John Cena around in his pocket. But then again, Eighth also has likes, or at least at one point liked Roman Reigns. He still has a Roman Reigns ball cap up there somewhere that I bought him at WWE Raw. The one time that I've ever taken him to a WWE event, which was like the month before we moved here to Texas. Favorite wrestling game ever? WWE All Stars is probably that. That or just regular old NES wrestling with, like, you know, Starman and all that. I love that game. I liked Tecmo Wrestling on NES too. It was fun. But the one that came out for PS3 and 360, that was really arcadey, and you could play as Roddy Piper and all the classic wrestlers on it. That's been the last time I really got into a wrestling game. That's one that I wish they'd remaster. You know, remaster that. Give me that on PS5 at 4K 60. But they're not going to do it because they would have to pay the estates of so many dead wrestlers money. Seventh, I know you're not big on racing games, but did you ever play Diddy Kong Racing? Do you think it's at least better than Mario Kart 64? No, I didn't play Diddy Kong Racing. Not big on kart racers. Is there a food from the 80s and 90s that was good but now awful, and what's a discontinued food item that you miss? Burger King used to be really good, but now they kind of taste like they don't taste as good. I mean, their fries are better because, you know, back in the 90s, their fries tasted like potato chips. But their burgers don't taste as good. And I don't know if they've changed, like, their cooking sauce or what they've done. But they're just not as good as they used to be. What's a discontinued food that you miss? Well, I don't know about 90s, but in the 80s, there was it was like Aunt somebody or Mama somebody. It had a picture of an old lady on the label, and it was spaghetti in a jar, and you would heat it up in the microwave. I know it sounds dangerous, but it's not. You'd heat it up in the microwave, and then you just pour it out of the jar into a you know, a bowl or whatever and eat it. And I remember it had little tiny meatballs that were shaped like pencil erasers, and it was surprisingly good. And for a while there, my little Monday night routine is I'd heat up a jar of that spaghetti, and then I'd sit and watch Alf while I'm eating that spaghetti, and that'd be my Monday night ritual before wrestling would come on. Yes, I already know about Glenn Jacobs. Eighth, did you like the film The Marine? No, I didn't. I'd say 95% of movies starring wrestlers aren't worth watching. Yeah, it's pretty much They Live, and then crap for the most part. They Live is decent, and then just about almost everything else is garbage. Thoughts on Paul Heyman finally being inducted in the Hall of Fame? Should have been a lot sooner than this. Ever watch AEW? Couple of times. Didn't like it. To me, it feels like TNA with a bigger budget. Seventh, do you normally decorate your house for Halloween? No. I don't want to. I don't want to spend the money on Halloween decorations. I'd rather spend it on games. I mean, my neighbor next door here, she has like graves and stuff in her front yard, and spiders hanging off the side of the house and whatnot. Could you picture my fat ass climbing up on a ladder to put plastic spiders on the side of my house? Guess what? It's not happening. More power to her. She's in good shape. She can do that kind of stuff. Not me. I ain't spending that kind of money. I'll open up my garage and put some spooky music on the stereo, and sit out there with a bowl of candy for the kids, so that they don't have to come and knock on my door, because right now my porch light is busted. I need a new bulb for it. And rather than having to listen to the dog bark every time somebody knocks on the door, we'll just go outside and listen to some music, sit at the bar, and hand kids candy as they walk up to the garage. Yeah, if I had time and money, maybe I'd do something spooky. Put up some black sheets to hide everything in the garage, and smoke machine, and some dim light, and the kids come walking in to get their candy, and then I could burst out of the side dressed as Leatherface with a chainsaw that has no chain on it, and just freak them out. Maybe I'd do something like that, but I don't really have the time or the money for that right now. Seventh, do you like the film? Do you like the film Ride Along? No, I didn't like it. Your father used to do that with you, correct? Yes. Do I think do I think hiring a lady of the night should be legal? Well, it's kind of a disgusting practice, but I mean, at the same time, if you think about it from a certain perspective, that's what dating is anyway. You take a lady out for a nice dinner, you take her to a movie, you buy her drinks, maybe you go dancing, you have to pay the club costs, buy more drinks. You're paying for the chance to score. Whereas with the other, you're guaranteed to score. That's the only real difference between the two. So, I don't know. In a way, it already is legal. Have you seen the movie The Wrestler? Yes, it's okay. If you were in better shape, would you get a monster mask and try to scare people during Halloween? Well, I just said what I'd do. I could do Leatherface because Leatherface is already kind of fat, so I could get away with that. I just get the mask and a button-down shirt and a cooking apron and smear some fake blood on it. Get me a chainsaw that's had the chain removed, so all it is a noisemaker, and just burst out from behind a curtain when the kids come in. Arr! Yeah, I would do that all day long. That would be fun, but I don't have the time and money to do it. The only thing I decorate is those light beam Christmas lights. You know, I've thought about doing the scrim thing where you put a scrim in front of your entryway to your house, and you have a little projector that projects scary images onto it so that they have this 3D look. I've considered doing that. Or maybe doing that thing where it's a projector that you put in front of your house and it projects stuff onto your house. Maybe something like that, but not this year. What if you cosplayed as Billy Bob from the Rock of Fire explosion? Most kids, I don't think, would get that. And plus, that would be a much more expensive costume. Did you play Puppeteer? Yes. I never finished Puppeteer, but I did play it. I still have it on PS3. It's upstairs in 8's game room. From Benjamin Pearson, I want to send you a care package of stuff from Spirit Halloween. I get a discount on stuff, and I've wanted to ask you about it for a while because we got stuff in that you'd like. I don't have a P.O. box, Benjamin, and I don't give out my personal address. Sorry, boss. Appreciate the sentiment, though. I forgot the DLC characters. I'll try to. Oh, you were talking to 8th. Okay. When 8th has a friend come over, Alex will be fine as long as that friend is seated. The minute that friend stands up, Alex will start barking until the friend sits down again, and then she hops in their lap and she's fine. She doesn't like them to move once they come over. She likes them to just sit still. And don't take that personally, Benjamin. Don't be offended by it. I just learned a long time ago that it's not a good idea to have my personal address out there. It's too much of a risk. You know, pretty much the only people out there right now that have my personal address are Billy and Jay from the Game Chasers. They're the only ones that have it. So I appreciate it. That's why I do the Streamlabs thing. It's easier, you know. You can just as easily put money in the Streamlabs thing and tell me this is only for this specific thing, and I promise you that I will spend it on whatever that thing is, as long as it's legal and it's not something gross and disgusting, like, you know, an adult film or something like that. Halloween is an odd holiday. We tell our kids never to take candy from strangers 364 days out of the year, and then on one random night the rule goes out the window. You're not wrong. Dogs are overprotective. That depends on whether they're trained or not. 7th, do you like Clearwater, Florida? Very clean beaches, not as crowded. Not as much to do either, but very nice beach. Or at least it was the last time I was there. Will he make another cameo? Will who make another cameo? Who are you talking about, Alaskan dude? Are you talking about the dog? Alex is a she, not a he. Alex is upstairs with her dad. Halloween is not considered an official holiday. I very much consider it a holiday. I spend it watching horror movies. Now, the last several Halloweens, I have not given out candy simply because I lived in a neighborhood where there weren't trick-or-treaters. They would all carpool down the street to the rich neighborhood, and they'd trick-or-treat there. They wouldn't bother trick-or-treating in my neighborhood. But now I'm in this new neighborhood, and I have no idea. I've only seen one house on my street that's decorated for Halloween, and it's the one right next to me. So I don't know if they trick or treat here or not. I'm going to have to ask my neighbor and see. Because if they don't have a lot of kids that do it, I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to turn all my lights off and pretend like I'm not home. If I had kids, I'd say no to trick-or-treating. We're going to Target or Walmart, and you can pick out what candy you want. That's not as fun, Bill. At least take them to church and do the trunk-or-treat thing. You'd be relatively safe in the parking lot of a church. You could at least do that. Or if you live in Florida, take them to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. They'll get all the candy they want. All the candy they want. They'll give them a trick-or-treat bag when they walk in. That bag will be full within an hour of being there, and they'll just keep handing them more bags. By the time you leave, you'll have 6 or 7 bags full of candy. More than you could eat in 6 months' time. Because they have to incinerate. They have to burn anything that they don't use. So if you stay long enough for the park to close, they will literally come by, and they have these big barrels full of candy. They're like 4-foot tall barrels on wheels full of candy, and they'll take these Halloween bags and scoop it down in there and just fill it up and hand them to you just to get rid of the candy as you're leaving. It'll put you in a diabetic coma with the amount of sugar they'll give your kid. The whole thing about always got to check your candy was because of a guy who lived here in Texas. And he gave his own kid and some other kids that were there poisoned candy because he had taken out some kind of a life insurance policy on his kid, and he wanted to collect the insurance policy. So he basically murdered his own kid and like 2 or 3 of his kids' friends. And that's where the whole thing about, check your candy for signs of puncture, check your candy for razor blades and all of that came from that one dude. Have you ever watched Lights Out? Yeah, it was okay. From Benjamin, I've been starting to collect more PS2 games, and I noticed on some games there's white residue on the inner ring of the disc. Do you know what that is from? I assumed it was from smoke damage. Could be. I haven't had that phenomenon on any of mine. It could be condensed dust that's hardened. Like if they left their discs sitting out instead of putting them back in their cases, and so dust would collect on the top of the disc. Over time, that dust, if there was any kind of moisture particulates in the air, could kind of fuse to the top and create little dotted stains on the disc. Not necessarily smoke damage. I think we've got like 130 PS2 games now, something like that. Oh, that reminds me. Pickups. Billy from the Game Chasers every couple of weeks will do a whatnot auction. He's been needing extra money, and so he's been selling off some of his collection, and I decided to partake. So here's what I picked up. Now this one he gave me as a free gift, because sometimes if you spend over a certain amount, or if you're a real loyal fan or a friend, he'll throw extra stuff in the auctions. And so he gifted me Wimbledon for Sega Master System. Now you think, oh, what? A tennis game? Well, it's a tennis game that was not released here in the States. So it's not one that you see very often over here. And so I was very happy to have it, because my Master System collection is not that big to begin with. So thank you, Billy, for the free game. And then I got this off of him for $2 whole, box complete NBA Live 95. I did not really like these NBA games on Genesis. They did not feel as fun as Lakers versus Celtics, but I was happy to have it anyway, because it is one that I was missing, and it was box complete. Mostly what I did was Dreamcast games, because Billy decided that he never really cared for Dreamcast that much. It's been 5 years since he turned it on, and he just decided he was going to clear out. So I got Stupid Invaders, which is actually an uncommon on Dreamcast. This runs about $65 to $70. It's a comedic point-and-click game, kind of similar to Maniac Mansion or its sequel, Day of the Tentacle. It's kind of like that. I got Tokyo Extreme Racer. It's missing the manual. It's got everything else. Tokyo Extreme Racer is basically like a fighting game. You're racing one-on-one against other racers on the streets of Tokyo, and you can upgrade cars, get faster cars, etc., etc. But when you're racing, you have a life bar, and the amount of time you spend ahead of your opponent drains their life bar. So it boils down to who stays in first place the longest, and it's actually quite fun. There was also versions of this made for the PS2. NHL 2K. Enough said. NFL 2K1. This was when I actually enjoyed playing football games. Marvel vs. Capcom. Now, it's not the real manual. It's just a cover that he printed. He didn't have the manual. So it's not full box complete, but it's good. Of course, if you like fighting games. And Toy Commander. Not many people remember this Dreamcast game, but it's flying toys around in like a kid's room and having air battles and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of neat. So added 6 games to our Dreamcast collection. I've already gone and added those to the Game Eye. So all the Dreamcast games are kept up in 8's game room. Whoops. So I'm sure he will be coming down here at some point to grab these and take them upstairs and put them on the shelf. Now, let me catch up. Sorry, I forgot about that. I used to hand out gum on Halloween. I remember there was a lady in my neighborhood when I was a little boy who would dress up as the Tooth Fairy, and she'd give you an option. You could either take a handful of candy or you could take an orange or an apple. And she would basically guilt you into taking the fruit because the acid in that fruit was supposedly so much better for your teeth than the sugar that was in the candy. But anyway, let's see here. Sly 2 Band of Thieves turns 20. I'm old. Such a great game. Was a great game. That's a horrible story. How did he get caught? I don't remember it. I watched about him on one of those true crime things. I mean, all you have to do is look it up. Just do a Google search for man poisons his own son with Halloween candy, Texas. You'll find it. Next year will be 20 years since 360 came out. I know. Don't remind me. Thoughts on the Jamie Foxx show? Never watched it. 7th, do you think having a girlfriend that is a gamer is bad? No. Could it be a bonus? Yes. I'd rather she be in the kitchen. Just kidding. Well, it doesn't hurt they know how to cook. Was 8th in Adventures in Game Chasing as a cameo like you were? He was in the My Cameo scene. Remember that My Cameo scene is a commercial for a American Pickers style reality show. And my character is supposed to be at a garage sale. And 8th is the guy sitting behind the table at the garage sale with his feet up on the table. And he's got a ball cap pulled down over his face. And he's supposed to be asleep. And he's just sitting there like that. So you see him on screen for like 2 seconds. But he is there. He was also in another scene that was filmed for a dream sequence that was supposed to be an 8-bit Eric dream sequence, but they didn't end up using that scene. And so he was in a crowd scene there, but they ended up cutting that out. They didn't use it. But he's definitely in my scene. You see him for like 2 seconds as the camera goes past him. What's Wimbledon worth? I have no idea. It's probably like $8. I like the Retropalooza vlogs you guys do. It's always nice to see new 7th vids. Well, I can't afford to go, guys. Like I've told you guys before, I'm not popular enough to be a paid guest at Retropalooza, and I don't have the money for the hotel. I can't do the hotel. It just is what it is, man. And I don't really like going to Retropalooza unless I have $1,000 in my pocket to spend, and I'm not going to have $1,000 this time around. Not even close. Hey, 7th, have you ever played Tiny Tank? I don't know. It sounds familiar, but I can't remember. I don't read avidly anymore, Ultra Steel. I haven't read avidly in years. I used to read avidly. I used to have a massive book collection. But the former Mrs. 7th, the original one, 8's mom, decided that she didn't like having all these books taking up so much space in the living room. So she basically took them all off the shelves and dumped them in the floor of a closet and was using those shelves for other stuff. So around about then was when I stopped regularly buying books, because on top of that, she didn't like for me to read books, because I should be sitting there watching her read a book instead of being able to read a book, because she was that codependent. Anyway. I just got tired of hearing bitching and moaning about it. And so I got out of the habit of purchasing books. And, by the time I'd finally had enough and ended things, I'd gotten so in the habit of not caring about buying new books that I never really went back to it. Ever had a midlife crisis? Not really. If Sony does remasters, don't remaster 3 to 5 year old games. Exactly. Do old stuff. Like Legend of Dragoon. Beyond the Beyond. Never watched Dexter, heard mixed things. Would you recommend it? The first 5 seasons. After that, don't bother. Not really, Chris G. Not really. It wasn't exactly a walk in the park. You know what I'm saying? Wasn't exactly a walk in the park. Very stressful. There's always some kind of drama, no matter what. There was no just coming home from a long day of work, sitting down, putting my feet up, and relaxing. I always walk right through the front door and into some kind of drama. Every damn day for 8.5 years. Just is what it is. Not no more, though. I've now officially been free of her for longer than I was ever married to her, so... Boy, everyone got quiet. Everyone got super quiet all of a sudden. What you thinking about? That's something she'd ask me all the time. What are you thinking about? And of course, I was a man. 9 times out of 10, I wasn't thinking about anything. I was just watching TV or playing a game. Not thinking about doing anything but, so it would piss her off because I'd say, I'm thinking this game is not as good as I was hoping it would be. Or, I'm thinking I really like this TV show that I'm watching. And it would piss her off. She'd get so mad. I don't know what she expected me to say. It's like that meme. That meme where they're laying in bed and the wife think, oh, he's probably dreaming about sleeping with some other woman, and he's sitting, and then you see his thought cloud, you know, and it's something about, boy, I really wish I had this Magic the Gathering card or something like that, you know. That's what it was like with her all the time. You know, she thought I was having some kind of deep philosophical thoughts in here all the time, and she wanted to know what they were, or you know, would try to catch me in like thinking about some other female, something like that. It was weird. Anyway. Oh. One hour remaining. We have had one $5 donation. Y'all don't love me no more. And Richard hasn't been here in 2 weeks. Ever laugh so hard you could barely breathe? It's the worst. I've had that happen in movies. Uh, I had that happen, believe it or not, I had that happen the first time I ever saw Dumb and Dumber. I went to see Dumb and Dumber at the theater. And I laughed so hard at some of it that I lost my breath. That was sarcasm, 7. I am aware. No, she wasn't that good at that either, Chris. She wasn't that good at that either. 7th, I guess it's true that they say women demand attention. Seems like social media was the worst thing for them. Not to get too into that. Moving on. 7th, you can't say that. I donated $50 to you 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. And I appreciated it, and I used it well. Thank you. I'm just saying, you guys yourselves pointed out last week, oh, well, you didn't make any goals because Richard's not here. That's because Richard would regularly show up and donate. It wasn't a one-shot thing with him, is what I'm saying. Let's see here. Seventh, who were the great women of your life? I didn't have any. My mother, I guess. My mother and my grandmother. My favorite teacher, Lillian Witcher. One of my middle school English teachers, Mrs. Bobo. Yes, that really was her last name. Very, very positive, encouraging women. Contributed a lot to my creativity and blossoming of my writing capability and things of that nature. I would consider those the great women in my life, not anyone that I've had a relationship with, because none of them really turned out to be much of anything. I mean, I liked Mrs. 7th, number 2, quite a bit, but, you know, she didn't want to come here. So, you know, I wasn't as big a part of her life as she was of mine, I suppose. Is what it is. My neck is killing me. But anyway, we are $45 away from extending it by an hour. Dark Star Archangel has been the only one to donate, and he did that right at the start of the stream. So there has been nothing since him. Hasn't really been any, you know, honestly, when this is over with tonight, I'm probably just going to log on with my work computer and do some work. I mean, it's my off day, but I will often do that if I don't have anything else that I really feel like doing, just to make sure that I don't have like a super busy and cluttered Monday when I log in on Monday morning. So that's probably what I'll do when this is over, is instead of playing anything or, you know, watching anything fun, I'll just put on something stupid in the background and log in and do some work. Fun, 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 right? Well, she was pretty chill. She was extremely chill, but you know, her parents lived uh, there in that town. Her best friend, who she'd been best friends with for years and years, lived there, and she just didn't want to follow me to Texas. I was like, "Well, I'm sorry, but I'm going to Texas." Actually, Bill, I don't really deserve any respect for the Astro Plat because I've gotten to where my hands don't respond for me the way they should anymore. And so, whereas I did 99% of the game on my own, there were two of the challenge levels where I had to have Eighth do them for me because I couldn't get my hands to respond well enough. And part of that had to do with the momentum system in that game. Uh, you build up speed by doing uh, consecutive movements without having to stop or break the cycle of your movement. So, like, you can run around in circle and build up speed, and as long as you're still pushing forward and you don't do a double jump or you don't stop to gauge a jump before you make it or whatnot, you will stay at that same speed. But I'm someone that tends to uh, plan out my best route as I'm doing it rather than just from memory, and so I will often uh, wait for my perfect moment. And so some of those challenge levels, they require you to be at full speed through the whole thing. So you're expected to just run through it and not hesitate, not miss anything, hit every mark, perfect run. And there was a couple of them where I just couldn't make that happen, no matter how much I tried, and I was getting extremely angry and irritated about it. And Eighth just came down and did those two because he knew that I was getting really, really pissed off, and it was just my hands couldn't. I'm going on 50 years old, guys, and I'm just losing, and I'm starting to lose it. And that's why you'll most often see me mainly playing uh, RPGs and stuff like that nowadays because they don't require the fast reflexes that I used to have. I can still do most of the retro games that I played. I can still beat Bionic Commando. I don't know that I would still be able to beat Ninja Gaiden, though. Pretty sure I can still beat Mega Man 2, but I don't know about the other Mega Man games because my hand-eye coordination just isn't what it used to be. And it's primarily this hand. This hand started to go downhill after the car wreck that I had in '95, and it's gotten progressively worse. It's also why I can't do guitar solos, the way that I used to be able to. But now that I'm getting old, on top of that, you're adding arthritis into that mix, which makes it even worse. And then when you add into it that Astro Bot, you can't turn the vibration on it off. And so, I'm sitting redoing these challenge levels over and over again with this thing vibrating. Yeah, after a while, this hand really starts to hurt. And the worse I do, the worse it gets because the more I'm tensing the hand. And eventually I was like, I give up. And Eighth came downstairs and he did those two that I couldn't do. So I did like 99% of it, and he did the last two things that I couldn't pull off. So I'm not ashamed to admit that. It's just a game. I don't even pay that much attention to platinums anymore either. That's the first platinum I've earned in probably 2 years. from 8th. Most towns that I've been to don't have anything to do. HEB and then several open fields for sales. My experience with Texas. A few cool bars, maybe. See, 8th is actually I'm at a disadvantage with 8th because the 8th has been to the town that technically has the most to do when it comes to Texas, which is San Antonio. I have not been to San Antonio. He went there with a friend to see a Dragon Force concert. And, he went to Six Flags while he was there. I haven't been to either of the Six Flags there in Texas, although he told me it was kind of a dump. I haven't been to the SeaWorld there. They got to eat at the Rainforest Cafe there. I haven't ate at Rainforest Cafe since 2015 when I took him to Disney World the last time. He got to at least walk past the Alamo, which is a lifelong dream of mine because, of course, I grew up in Tennessee and everything was Davy Crockett, Davy Crockett, Davy Crockett. So I've always wanted to go there and see where Davy Crockett died. And I hear that the Riverwalk is really cool. I've wanted to go to the Riverwalk. But San Antonio also has a lot of the same tourist attractions that Gatlinburg does. So it's kind of the Gatlinburg of Texas in that way. They've got all the Ripley stuff that Gatlinburg has. But I guess since 8th was primarily there to see a concert, then, And when he went to Six Flags, he said half the stuff there was closed, that the rides weren't even running. So, here's the thing about Texas. You've got pockets of population. Houston, San Antonio, Dallas area. Those are your three big ones. And then you have a bunch of small little towns like the one that we live in. But when it comes to conventions, when it comes to concerts, there's a lot more of that going on here than there was in Charlotte where we used to live. Charlotte didn't have, Charlotte had Carowinds, which was a decent theme park. But they weren't as good with concerts and stuff like that. They weren't as good with gaming conventions. They had a cool horror convention there, but not gaming conventions. So it just kind of depends. How much you enjoy Texas depends on A, where you live, B, where you've gone, and C, what interests you. The way the future holds, I'm looking to buy land and slowly build a place because the future of this country is scary. Well, yeah. 7th, was Ghostbusters Frozen Empire better than Aftermath? Ultra Steel, did you like the real Ghostbusters cartoon from the 80s? Because if you liked that show, you'll love Ghostbusters Frozen Empire because it's basically like a 2-hour episode of that show. 7, thoughts on the death penalty. You think it's okay? I don't have a problem with it. As long as you're absolutely sure the person is guilty of the crime. Texas is one place I would never go. Well, good for you. I saw on the news a man with a machete was prowling around a San Antonio home, so a dump sounds somewhat accurate, but yeah, it has a few attractions. Well, I had the opportunity to buy a house in San Antonio instead of here for far cheaper than what I paid for this house. Like $50,000 cheaper than what I paid for this house, same size. I didn't do it because they say that the job market in San Antonio is crap, and also there's a lot more crime there than there is where we moved. 7th, have you ever been pulled over by a mean cop? Nope. They added new trophies to Sly 1 on PS5. Bought it for $10. Hope they do the rest of the series like that. 7th, which soundtrack is better, Thunder Force 2 or 3? 3 is way better than Thunder Force 2. Yeah. Some people would say that 4 is much better than 3. I know Alpha Omega Sin feels that way. I disagree with Alpha. I prefer 3 over Lightning Force. Austin versus Houston versus Dallas. Austin leans a lot farther left than Houston or Dallas does. They all lean left, but Austin is where it gets far left. But it's okay as long as you live on the outskirts of it and not in the thick of it. Seventh, when you take the PS5 out of its box and try to set up and play a game, the setup should take no more than 20 minutes, right? Well, that depends on your internet connection and a bunch of different things like that. But on average, I'd say that's about right. No, I've never wanted to live in Alaska. I'm playing Sly Thieves in Time right now, and it's good like the other three, but I can see why they hawing kept milking Sly games because they kind of wrap up. I just didn't like the fourth one as much as the first three. It just didn't feel as good to me. Yes, I loved Real Ghostbusters, especially possessed Peter Venkman in that Mrs. Rogers episode. Well, then you'll like Frozen Empire, because that's what they were going for. In interviews, some of the cast said they were specifically told that they were going for the same feel as the Real Ghostbusters cartoon. So if you liked that, you should like the movie. Did you ever play the Devil May Cry series? Yes. I only really liked the first one, though. I didn't care for 2 or 3. I played a little bit of 4, and I barely played 5. To be honest with you, the first one is the only one that I've played all the way through, because the rest of them just haven't grabbed my interest. Seventh, do you believe in the JFK conspiracy? Oh, I absolutely believe that there was more than one gunman, and that the shot that killed him did not come from Lee Harvey Oswald. I've watched the footage. I've seen the wounds. If that shot had come from Lee Harvey Oswald, it would have blown out this corner of his head, right here. It would have blown out the left front corner. It would have come out this, probably right underneath his eye. But that's not what happened. This side of his head blew off because something came in this way and exploded it. And they do have a photo that was taken from the other side of the street, aimed towards the left side of the car with the grassy knoll in the background, and you can see someone standing behind that little brick wall with what looks like a rifle with a muzzle flash. I've seen that photo. So, yeah, I absolutely believe that it wasn't Oswald that killed him. Shot at him, yes. Killed him, no. Do you like the film Frozen? No. I do not. But I'm not the audience it was made for, am I? It wasn't made for me. Out of tea. I almost stretched it out the whole show. We got 40 minutes left. Keep on asking questions, though. We got to keep this stuff interesting now. We got to keep it riveting. Oh. Bored. Ask me good questions. I'm getting bored. Bored. Ask me better questions, please. Let's go. I mean, if y'all are done, I can just cut it off in a half hour early. I don't have any reservations about that. Have you heard of THR? What is THR? I don't know what that is. That question disappeared. Do you like A Bronx Tale? It was okay. Not the best film in the world, but it was all right. Do you believe in the 9/11 conspiracy? Not really. Not really. Because it wasn't so much. You know, people talk about jet fuel can't melt steel beams. No, but excessive heat can warp steel beams. It can make them bend. And when you have steel beams that are holding up the structure like that, that start to sag, that starts to pull the walls in like this, that's what's giving the building its structural stability. So once one of those goes, it's just a pancake that goes straight down. Anyone that's had any kind of actual structural engineering knows how that works. So, I don't put a whole lot in the 9/11 conspiracy. Seventh, do you think that the argument that adults make about kids' movies suffering in quality is okay just because it's made for kids? No. But at the same time, a lot of that just comes from kids of my generation having grown up where a lot of the cartoons, while some of them were really good, a lot of them were equally horrible and were just 30-minute commercials for toys. Some of them still stand the test of time. You can go back and watch them and still enjoy them. But some of them, no. Will you watch the Lion King prequel? Not at the theater. I'll watch it on Disney Plus when it hits streaming. Do you like the Gentleman movie? I don't think I've watched it. Do you ever watch Conspiracy Theory with it? No. Absolutely not. Have no reason to. It's not like he used to be the president. Yes, he was a former Navy SEAL. But, he was the governor of Minnesota. It's not like he was privy to a ton of top secret stuff. Favorite Jennifer Connelly movie? Easy. Rocketeer. Rocketeer. Do you remember Captain Planet? I remember how much it sucked. Had a sucky theme song, had sucky animation, had sucky acting. The characters were terrible. I don't know how long. I don't know why that show stayed around as long as it did, other than Ted Turner just liked being able to say that he bankrolled it. I bankrolled a socially conscious cartoon for kids. Yeah, that wasn't any damn good. Show sucked. It was absolutely terrible. I mean, y'all like to talk about cringe these days. Captain Planet was 30 minutes of daily cringe. Unbearable. Favorite Tom Hanks movie? Probably Catch Me If You Can. I liked Catch Me If You Can, even though the movie's mostly BS. A lot of the stuff you see in the movie didn't actually happen, but it's still a fun movie. I like Castaway, but I liked Catch Me If You Can better. There's just more to it. I mean, Castaway is interesting, and he definitely goes on an emotional journey there. But at the same time, it's 2 hours of Tom Hanks talking to a volleyball. I'm just saying. I have to be in a very specific mood to rewatch Castaway. I have to be sitting there and thinking, I'd very much like to watch Tom Hanks talk to a volleyball for 2 hours. Which one's better, Forrest Gump or Shawshank? Forrest Gump is fun, but it hasn't aged well. Shawshank is still as good now as it ever was. Do you agree that the Ratchet and Clank games are too easy and PS5 games in general are easy games to plat? I wouldn't agree with that. The Ratchet and Clank games, there are things you can do to up the difficulty if you feel that they're too easy. Uh, and it also depends on which one. I mean, yes, Rift Apart was much easier. I would challenge you to try to play Platinum a Crack in Time in the same amount of time that it would take, and the same amount of tries that it would take to Platinum Rift Apart. It's night and day. A Crack in Time had actual challenge to it, especially that final boss fight. Did you like The Green Mile? Yes, I very much like The Green Mile. Do I like John Goodman? Yes. Do you think Ratchet and Clank and Jak and Daxter should have gotten TV series? I think they would have been good fits for it. I don't know how successful they would have been. I cannot say there. Magic powers. Green Mile felt overrated. I don't really think so. Are you going to watch the new Salem's Lot? Well, I mean, it's free. It's going straight to streaming. Why wouldn't I watch it? I mean, hell, I sat through the first 2 episodes of Agatha All Along or whatever. Favorite pizza place from the 80s? Showbiz. Going to Showbiz was a special event. But then again, when you're the son of a cop who doesn't make a whole lot of money, going to Pizza Hut for dinner is a special event too. Going to Pizza Hut and sitting in Pizza Hut and having dinner was like going to a nice restaurant for us. It wasn't fast food. We didn't see it as fast food. For us, it was no different than going to Ruby Tuesdays or Applebee's. Because you had nice booths with nice tables, and they had rock music playing in there, and they had arcade games that you could play. It was an event, and the pizza was way better than it is now too. I loved going to Pizza Hut when I was a kid, but I really loved going to Chuck E. Well, it wasn't Chuck E. Cheese. I never liked Chuck E. Cheese. Chuck E. Cheese took out half the arcade games and replaced them with stupid prize games because they realized they made more money off of those. I liked when it was Showbiz and they had an actual full arcade in there. Can you explain the 3 gates to me? That's how much I care about the 3 gates. Local or chain pizza? That depends. We've actually ate at a local pizza place here in town that our buddy Brian took us to, and it was good. It was good. Green Mile main character was a big baby at Korean. Are you talking about John Coffey? Seventh, do you own Metal Gear Solid Volume 1 collection for PS5? No. I asked this earlier, but I think you missed it. Will you watch the Vince McMahon Netflix series? I might watch 1 episode of it, and if it doesn't grip me, that'll be all I watch. Pizza Hut was so much better. Now, oddly enough, if you go to Kissimmee, Florida, on 192 outside of Disney World, somewhere around mile marker 11 or 12, there's actually a remaining open dine-in Pizza Hut, like a traditional dine-in Pizza Hut that you can eat there. But I'm not driving all the way to Kissimmee, Florida from Texas to do it. Hey, 7th, take the rest of the night off and go watch some MST3K with Joel and the bots. May I suggest Beatniks? Lol. He had mental challenges, Shadow DS. That was the point of his character. He was basically, a 7-foot tall 5-year-old child. How did you miss that? Or are you just trying to troll again? I wouldn't troll in here. 8th is in the chat room, Shadow Deist. Don't take that risk, son. He timed out the other guy just by seeing his name show up. Just think about it. I wonder how many times a day that guy types Korean. 7th, have you ever seen the Rock-afire Explosion documentary? Yes, I have. No, I don't know Aaron. I know about Aaron, but I don't know Aaron. I have to wonder about y'all, some of y'all sometimes. Sad. Sad, sorry state of affairs. My hands. My hands hurt a lot lately. Shoulders too. I'm getting old, guys. I'm actually starting to show my age now. It's mostly still just the beard, but, I'm to the point where I don't feel like bothering with dyeing it anymore. Bye, Alaskan dude. Checking out 30 minutes early. I see how you are. That's all right. That's all right. Uh. 7th, are you a fan of the Doom games? I liked the first 2. I haven't really liked anything after Doom 1 and 2, to be honest with you. I didn't like Doom 3. I wasn't a tremendous fan of Doom 2016 or Doom Eternal. I think the game just got updated again with a free upgrade. Do you know how much of Doom and Doom 2 I've played at this point? I was in high school when the original one came out. Think about it. Senior year of high school. And now I'm shortly going to be turning 50. Lol, brew all night. Maybe he just needs to drop a slick. Who are you talking to and what are you talking about? Do you ever wonder who has asked you the most questions over the years? I bet it's me. It's probably been Ultra Steel, to be honest with you. Yeah, Clean Frame, and I said I wasn't really interested in asking that question when you can just Google it. Why would you want to learn about it from me? working at GameStop would be a joke because they don't give you enough hours to get anything done or make enough money to warrant working there. Doom Eternal didn't finish and got screwed because our saves don't transfer to PS5, so I got to continue my PS4 save without an upgrade, and I was unmotivated. $20 minutes left, everybody. Get your questions in now. 20 minutes left in this riveting show. Where I gave y'all 3 hours of free 3 hours for $5 of entertainment. What's your favorite retro games? Almost all of them are on the NES. Ninja Gaiden, Mega Man 2, Mega Man 3, Bionic Commando, Legend of Zelda. Faxanadu. I don't have a very interesting opinion about the political follies of Richard Nixon. Clean frame. I couldn't really give less of a crap about Richard Nixon and what he did or didn't do. Gamergate, I've already talked about ad nauseum, and Pizzagate was a bunch of BS. So I don't have really anything interesting to say about any of them. What's the worst job you've ever had? Oddly enough, aside from an outbound telemarketing job that I only lasted 1 day at, I'd say my worst job was at Pizza Hut as a cook. I made pizzas because I had a pretty cushy job at a video rental store inside Farmore, and Farmore went out of business. It was my senior year, so I got let go right around when I was graduating high school, and so I landed at Pizza Hut because I had a friend that worked there. And I was getting about the same amount per hour, but I wasn't getting as many hours as I got at Farmore. And I just worked around a bunch of obnoxious people. The manager was a dickhead, and so I only was there for maybe 3 months, and I jumped ship to a grocery store. And now I'm almost 50 and I've been doing IT for 25 years. So, top PS1 game, Alundra. I can't believe that Halloween on Atari fetches $2,000 for CIB. Yeah, it's a pretty horrible game, all things considered. Will we ever see another Duke Nukem? I kind of doubt it after that last one. There wasn't really anything hard about making pizzas, especially not the way that Pizza Hut does it. But was certainly nothing really fun about it either. Oh, you remember, Bill. You remember my horror stories about when I worked there. Good, then I don't have to repeat them. I've been doing IT since I was from the age of right around, well, no, a little longer actually, because it was, let's see. Let me look. Because I'm getting to the point where I'm terrible at doing math in my head, and I want to make sure I get it right. If you include my very first official IT job, which was as a call center traffic manager for Convergys, I've actually been in IT for 26 years. It's just I tend to take out the 2 years that I worked at Disney, because I was working with IT systems, but I was actually considered an online concierge as opposed to like technical support or anything. Now, if you include the time I spent as a data entry analyst, then that goes up by another 2 years and makes it 28, because I started that around 1996, 2 years before I got that first call center job. So it's been a long time. Either way. Did you ever beat Zombies Ate My Neighbors? I never really liked Zombies Ate My Neighbors. So no. 7th, remember last week I was telling you about my lacking job experience. Well, good news, my job interview went well, and the company wants to hire me. I hope to start working soon. Thoughts? Well, I can't really give you that many thoughts, Ultra Steel, when I don't know what the industry is that you got hired into. You haven't said anything about what kind of job it is. I also remember 7th, but go ahead and repeat them. No, that's all right. What does IT do? Computer things, information technology, IT. What does IT do? Your troll game is weak, sir. Weak. Even Alien Magi is better at trolling than you are, Shadow Deist. Alien Magi hasn't been back the last couple of times because he knew that he wasn't going to be able to trick me into saying stupid names on the live on the air. Various different attempts to try to make me say the N-word by accident. That wasn't going to happen. I've seen them all. I've seen them all. He hasn't been back. Richard hasn't been back. Hey, maybe Richard and Alien Magi are the same person. What do you think? Richard was pretty active responding to me on Twitter, and he hasn't been on Twitter the last few weeks either. Wonder what happened to him. Maybe he was injured in a horrible smelting accident, and now he likes gold. Yeah, that was kind of Alien Magi's thing. He had tried to get me to say things that if said in a certain cadence or said a certain way, it would be the N-word or some nasty phrase or something like that. He was constantly trying to do that kind of crap. That was his whole shtick. Do you like a pancake? I like gold. Your Faja. Why am I thinking of that movie right now? I don't know. Faja. Yes, this is what I said. Gold. 7th, are you a manager in IT? I've been a manager. I'm not currently a manager right now. I'm an analyst. But I have been in a manager role before. It is what it is. I don't really care either way. I mean, if I ended up getting promoted into management with this company, with this division, it would bump me up about 50 grand a year. Yeah, I'd be going from a little over 80 grand a year to like 130. It'd be like a 50 grand bump. But the thing of it is, with the tax rates the way they are, I wouldn't see much of that as far as a salary increase. A lot of it would just go to taxes because it'd be bumping me into a new tax bracket. So, if it happens, it happens. If it don't, it don't. Who's worse, Alien Magi or Shadowhood? Probably Shadowhood. Well, it depends on the company, and it depends on what you're managing in IT, Shadow. It all depends. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of taxes either. I can't wait to see how badly I get screwed this year. I know I'll end up owing. I owed like $2,000 last year. I'll probably owe at least that much this year. Although it's possible that I won't get hit as hard because I'll end up getting that whole homeowner's tax credit. So maybe. Maybe Richard isn't a real person. Maybe you imagined him. Well, I didn't imagine the money that hit my PayPal. We're down to 14 minutes. 14 minutes and $45 short of an extension. Y'all just really don't love me no more. I'm just not compelling for you guys tonight. I'm not on fire tonight. I'm hearing from the grapevine that GTA 6 wouldn't take advantage of the PS5 Pro specs. What do you think? I don't think it won't take advantage of them. I just think that what they have planned for GTA 6 is going to be too much for the PS5 Pro's stats to handle. Because I got news for you. There's a lot of people out there, their current model PC ain't going to run it at 60 frames per second either. Seventh, do you think if someone is focusing on building job experience that it's wise to stick with minimum wage in the beginning? Because I heard companies are more likely to hold on to you. But companies are more likely to hold on to you so long as you are working a job that can't easily be replaced by third-party contractors from India. And you'll be less likely to be replaced if you are good at what you do and you are courteous and professional and most importantly, on time. You would not believe how much importance there is in timely attendance to your job. You can be great at what you do, but if you show up show up late or no show 3 times within a calendar month, out you go. 3-strike rule. 3 strikes, you're out. No, they haven't officially announced a PC version, but there have been discussions about what they felt the required specs were going to be for when it hit PC. As far as what it was going to need and how much horsepower it was going to require. There's been videos about that. 10 minutes, folks. We got 10 minutes left. Y'all getting quiet. 19 of you watching still. Where's all the questions at? 19 people watching, 4 people asking questions. What's up with that? Where's the other 15 people? Why aren't they asking questions? What's up with that? I don't get it. Wait a minute. Magic powers. Oh, that one's... Man. I'm going to burn the hairs out of my nose. Oh. Did you see the Iron Claw? Yes, it was okay. it wasn't historically accurate by any means, especially considering the fact that they combined two brothers into one person for no good reason. So, could have been better in that regard. Seventh, be honest, do you think I spam the chat on occasion? Sometimes. Especially when you start waxing religious or philosophical. But I'd rather you be asking questions than have complete dead air, too, so. Are you going to do a scary movie marathon during the month of October? I usually have a list of horror movies that I'll watch throughout October, yes. I have a couple that I've been wanting to watch, but I've been putting them off until October starts. Ever wanted to do truck driving? No. I have no interest in that as a career. No interest in being a truck driver. I know it can be a lucrative career to get into, but it also requires being behind the wheel of a vehicle for extended long periods of time. I mean, I have a cousin that owned a trucking company, so I'm fully aware of what it entails. I haven't done a DBTS in a long time because people stopped watching them. I mean, let's face it, people have stopped watching mostly everything that I do at this point. Magic powers. Will 7th of Ween never ever return? With 90 views a video? I don't think so. So the Ween did a lot of damage to this channel as far as the algorithm goes, so I doubt I'll ever go back to it. The last time I did a 7th of Ween video was about a horror movie that I really liked, a cheesy one from the early 80s, and I did like a full-on plot synopsis and whatnot. 100 and something views. Nobody watched it. Nobody cared. So I didn't make any more that year. It was the only one I made. No one gave a crap. 5 minutes left, folks. 5 minutes left. Any PS2 games you'd recommend picking up that aren't as common? Let's see. Yeah, this app is lagging today. Not sure why. Let's see. Crimson Sea 2. It's made by the people that did the Dynasty Warriors series, but instead of being a Muso that's about swords and slashing in ancient China, it's a sci-fi game, so you have like blasters and lightsabers. It's a sequel to a game that was on 360. Or not 360, it's a sequel to a game that was on original Xbox. I have a very dedicated audience of 12 people. You're not wrong. Any Halloween flicks you recommend? I'll let you know when I actually start doing my Halloween run this year. 4 minutes left, folks, and we're still $45 short of extending. So unless $45 hits here in the next 4 minutes, this is where the show ends. Did you like the movie Trick or Treat and Creepshow? Loved Creepshow. Trick or Treat, so-so. If you're talking about the one about the rock star that comes back from the dead. Yeah. Because there's two Trick or Treats. There's a Trick or Treat that's got the little guy with that kind of looks like he's got a jack-o'-lantern for a head. That's an anthology movie. And then there was a Trick or Treat movie from the 80s that was about a rock star that comes back from the dead and starts killing people. Do you like Lethal Weapon? Yeah. I don't think they've aged as well as some of the other 80s movies that I liked from that period. But I can still watch them and enjoy them. I didn't like Creepshow 2 as much as Creepshow 1. I didn't think it had as much of the fun factor. Plus, it only had 3 stories in it, whereas original Creepshow had more stories than that. But I still like it. Three-minute warning, everybody. Hi, Rain. Showed up right towards the end there, huh? Do you like the Die Hard films? Yes. Well, the first 3. I don't like anything after Die Hard with a Vengeance. Oh, the 2003 one. Yeah, I like that one. I have it on Blu-ray around here somewhere. Creepshow 2. Thanks for the ride. Yeah. I just think the first one is funnier, I finally have my cake. I mean, they're both cheesy, but, I like the first one better. Don't even bother with the third one. It's like this cheap direct-to-video crap that wasn't made by the same people and has nothing to do with the first 2 films. Somehow they just acquired the rights to the name and made this direct-to-video piece of garbage. Do we actually double dip A Nightmare Before Christmas every year? I don't. I tend to just watch that one when I'm in the mood for it. Probably the weakest story on Creepshow 2 was the wooden Native American one. The cigar Indian or whatever. That was probably the weakest story in Creepshow 2. I also like Tales from the Dark Side, the movie. I think that one fits in well with Creepshow 1 and 2. If you're looking for that kind of experience and you've never seen Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, that's a good one to throw in there. Also, Stephen King's Cat's Eye from around 1986. That one fits in with it pretty well, too. Although none of the stories in it are what you would consider traditional horror, per se. If there was a movie about your life, who would play you in Eighth, and why is it Shia LaBeouf and Jason Statham? That sounds terrible. And not at all even remotely accurate. Did you like Halloween 2? It was so-so. It was so-so. Anyway, it's 9 o'clock. We had $5 in donations all night. So this is where I will be departing. I appreciate everybody that showed up and stuck with me and asked questions and took part. Be thinking of what you want to ask next week as I continue to torture myself for your entertainment. So please come by next week, same 7th time, same 7th channel.